Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, the IT team's changing role and how they can succeed by doing less. My name's Rory McNeil, and I'm joined here by Raj Ketia, who is our Head of Managed Services here at Brennan IT. We'll be guiding you through the session today. If you have any questions during the webinar, then please do post them in the chat box on the dashboard, and we'll do our best to get to them all at the end. So without further ado, let's get going. Brennan recently conducted a survey of over 100 Australia-based IT professionals in medium-sized organisations in Australia, called the Transforming Role of IT in Medium-Sized Organisations. You can download this on our website. During it, we asked about the pain points and the opportunities that they were seeing, as well as tried to establish theirs and their organisation's outlook. Upon compiling the results, we discovered that there were a couple of striking findings. Chief among them was that just 16% of respondents said that IT was seen as a strategic department within their organisation, and of the biggest projects that organisations are currently grappling with, digital transformation, just 8% said that IT were leading it. This pointed to a broader trend that we saw, in that in some organisations, the IT team seemed to be unintentionally marginalised from the big organisation defining discussions at the top table, or at the very least not playing an active role in shaping the future broader direction of their organisations. Now, it's only in finding time to devote to these projects can an organisation and the IT team find true value. Now, look, the reasons for this are undoubtedly many, but what we found during the survey is that with so much now falling within the remit of the IT department, they're often unable to focus on the projects that are going to lead to both personal and business opportunities. Now, of their top priorities for the year, the survey respondents said that they were predominantly focused on security, and with the risk of failings in this area growing, it's really no wonder. Also, with the pace of change and the adoption of new technologies, which IT are often just handed to integrate and manage without prior thought going into their place in the wider ecosystem, they're having to devote more and more resources in just keeping everything together and operational. Integration came out as another major challenge for our respondents. Now, despite all this, it was interesting to see in our survey's results that strategic projects came out as an important area of focus on for the rest of the year. So what else might be getting in the IT department's way? Well, the answer to this is that there are higher expectations being placed on it, and from many areas across the business, which is preventing them from finding the time to do so. Similarly, whilst Gartner recently found that budgets are growing within the IT space, they're not necessarily keeping up with the amount of technology and complexities that most IT departments are having to use to adequately resource their day-to-day roles and strategic projects. Also, technology buying is often a distributed role right now, with many people making technology buying decisions. So it doesn't necessarily mean with IT budgets growing that it's all under the remit of the IT department. It's also worth mentioning that IT teams are generally small. We found that well over 50% of our survey respondents that they had an IT team of just 1 to 3 people internally. Now, it's no surprise, therefore, that with limited headcount and therefore limited skill sets, that IT teams aren't necessarily able to assist in all the areas in which would be necessary to create a complete, holistic and strategic direction for an organisation. Therefore, to me at least, it's pretty much no surprise that IT aren't being strategic. They've barely got time to do their day jobs. So, what's the role of the IT team in organisations at the moment? The current operational model that the vast majority of IT teams are utilising is a hybrid one. 48% of work is being done by external providers, and Australian medium organisations are adopting an integrated operational model. The role of external support in delivering individual functions and projects is well known, not to mention ongoing support. And the primary reason for engaging external service providers, according to our survey, was by far and away getting access to specialist skills and expertise. This heavy reliance on external support and managed service providers
is one that's only likely to increase as workloads within the IT team keep growing. But what else is it that external service providers can do to support internal IT teams so they're able to get to the strategic projects that are going to define their careers and their organization's future success? So we see three key ways that managed service providers can help. Now we say managed service providers as opposed to single shop functions because in order to deliver on the necessary strategic work, you need to have a much broader skill set than, for example, purely a straight security. So what are the three different ways? So firstly, the Spark. So this is where you can get help to identify any issues that you have and also spot opportunities that your organization may have within their entire IT environment. If you're not sure where to begin and what you should be looking to help enhance your organization, then this is where an MSP can really help spark new ideas and guide you through them. The second kind of main role is a porter. So by carrying the bulk of your day-to-day workload, things like providing IT support to your workforce, setting up new accounts, handling security and networking, they can free up your time by being your porter, carrying your heavy load and allowing you to focus on the projects that matter. Finally, a managed service provider can act as a catalyst. So if you're working on any number of strategic projects but are struggling to get them over the line or to necessarily scale them, then you can use a managed service provider as an extension of your project team, acting as a catalyst to accelerate your growth and ensure project success. So before we go much further and talk about some of the minutiae of exactly how a managed service provider can help and how the IT role is changing, I'm going to hand over to Raj. Raj, over to you.
Morning all, this is Raj Kedia. I'm the head of managed services at Brennan IT. Today we're going to be going through a number of key topics, and I thank Rory for that introduction and specifically the insights that have come through from the survey we've recently commissioned. So there's a number of topics we're going to be covering over the next 20-25 minutes. One is, we'll start with what is managed services. I'll spend about a minute just giving us a brief overview for those that appreciate there's many people that have come from various different backgrounds, and it always helps align people's understanding to just start off with a quick definition. So I'll start there. Then we'll talk about why use a managed service provider. What are the benefits? Why would someone want to engage a managed services provider to support them in IT service provision? Third, we'll look to what to look for in an MSP. And lastly, we'll talk a bit about how we at Brennan IT perform our service delivery when it comes to managed services. I'm going to start off with a quick definition then. So from an industry perspective, MS is a fixed monthly cost, fixed scope support agreement that can cover any aspect of a customer's ICT infrastructure. So when people are coming across to a managed services provider, they're looking for predictability. Predictability in terms of IT spend, fixed price arrangement. Many of our prior contacts and customers would have come from a time and materials arrangement whereby their IT service fees might fluctuate substantially from month to month. Managed services is fixed price. And the other one is around predictability when it comes to IT service delivery. So there we're talking about that fixed scope and fixed deliverables. So you pay X and you get a certain scope of services in a given month, quarter, year for that. It's the main reason why people come across and engage a managed services provider. Two broad categories of managed services that we talk about in the industry. One's managed end user services. So we're talking about the provision of services to the end users at our customers there. And we're talking about things like service desk support, providing them a single number to call up and request service for IT-related issues, workstation support, laptop support, desktop applications, on-site support, and so forth. That's all end-user services. The primary objective of end-user services is end-user productivity. We want to keep those end users as productive as they can be. We don't want IT to get in the way of them doing their day jobs. Then we've got managed infrastructure services. So this is all the back-end services that those end users rely upon. If those back-end services fail or are unavailable or underperforming, it obviously impacts those end users. So the primary objective of managed infrastructure services is all around availability and performance. So with that brief definition, I'll just move on into why use a managed services provider. So I'll start off with the first key reason. One is access to wider and deeper skill sets. Often companies will require a specialized skill set for a finite period of time. It could be to work on a project, could be to work on an issue. For example, a network specialist or a CCIE, for example, to come in to perform a one-off, core network redesign. A storage specialist to deploy new SAN. A database administrator to come in and redesign a database solution for a customer. Often having these people on the customer's, payroll full-time is uneconomical and usually unrequired. Those sorts of specialist skill sets are often required only for a short period of time, usually for a project in most cases. So one of the key reasons there is the access to wider and deeper skill sets, one of the reasons for engaging an MSP. The second one is reduction in tickets through standardization and stability. So MSPs have a broad range of customers and broad range of technologies that are supported. They often have pretty good insights into technology and configurations which are more stable than others. Often when they onboard, they'll standardize for stability. It's usually in their best interest to do so. A quieter and more stable environment usually means a better relationship between customer and managed service provider. Improved accuracy is the other. So MSPs, again, will invariably invest in things like automation to improve accuracy and consistency in delivery. Usually tasks that are high frequency and low variability are really good things to automate from an MSP's perspective, really good candidates. And again, it's in the best interest of an MSP to have an accurate outcome first time as opposed to second or third. The last one there is to allow end users to manage their own day-to-day issues directly. So this is all around self-service. We know that users prefer to take control where possible, to determine how they want their service to be delivered, how and when, and an MSP that provides that flexibility is certainly a benefit to the end customer. What to look for in a managed services provider? So there's a selection of items here. I'm going to go into a little bit of detail on each one of them. So the first thing is security, absolutely key in the day-to-day workings of any IT environment and at the forefront of what people are thinking of these days out in the industry as well. So proactive beyond what is critical. I'll go through that in a moment. Next-gen tools and services to improve your business, and I'll talk through what we mean by that in a moment. Transparency and a single point of accountability, and that's just talking to the relationship and partnership between a managed services provider and a customer. And the last one there is next-gen personnel to make your life easier. So what do we mean by each of those four facets of considerations? I'm going to talk a little bit about how we deliver to each of those key areas. So let me start off with security, proactive beyond what's critical. So the first aspect there is around centralized patch and SOE management. So at Brennan IT, we've got a method of centralizing both patch and SOE management and deployment to product that we deploy to our customers in an end user support scenario called centralized bundle. It's a managed SOE environment. What we've seen over the last 10 months in deploying this product is we've seen a 21% reduction in the number of tickets for any end user customer that has taken on that particular product from us, which is a pretty substantial reduction. And we've got a pretty healthy sample size there as well. So we support about 7,500 devices, and a healthy portion of those have been migrated onto that product. So we've got a pretty good sample as to where we're getting the 21% from. The second part is the vulnerability assessments as standard. So many other MSPs might consider this an add-on. We include this into our base product. Why? Because we want to keep our customers' environments as secure and stable as possible. All of our research suggests that the more secure an environment is, the more stable it'll be, and the less issues are likely to come out in that particular environment. With vulnerability assessment specifically, we don't just focus on critical. We will focus on high and medium vulnerabilities as well. We feel that that proactive method is certainly beneficial also. In addition to vulnerability assessments as standard, we also perform hardening to our servers when we onboard them, and perform regular user access verifications where we'll confirm out in an environment which users have which level of access and whether they've got an appropriate level, with a minimal level of access being preferred for most users. And then a security guarantee. So something we launched last year is our cyber security protection guarantee. And what this is basically about is effectively there's a number of recommended security services that we offer in our managed services portfolio. Everything from our Fortinet next-gen firewall, Mimecast, email content filtering, Microsoft 365 with security add-ons, and a number of other components. Now, if a client takes on and adopts those recommended security offerings from us, if that customer was to succumb to a breach of some nature where a managed server or desktop environment managed by Brennan IT was affected by ransomware, we'll actually issue the next month's invoice at $0 from Brennan IT. So we'll absolutely put our money where our mouth is in terms of that security guarantee. I'll move on to next-gen tools and services. So self-service portal. So we talk about this tagline from 5 days to 5 minutes. We're talking there about some of the more common requests that we get from our customers we've chosen to automate. So the example here is that you can submit a new user request via the portal, and that new user creation request, that new user should be able to log in and send and receive email within 5 minutes. Okay, so something you usually wait either hours or potentially days for is now done in a matter of minutes. That then links back to automation also. Again, 100% guarantee for the most common of requests, and we're selected there password resets, creation of new users, assigning of application licenses as the first couple, but we're adding more and more to these each time. And as I mentioned before, perfect candidates for automation are those particular tasks that we perform with very, very high frequency and usually pretty low variability as well. So we're adding to that automated list and guaranteeing 100% accuracy and execution there. Problem management, another area that we've invested into substantially over the last 12 months. So we're talking about there analyzing trends across our fleet, as I mentioned before, about 7,500 managed devices, and proactively isolating potential issues before they occur. So with that breadth of devices under support, it's very easy for us to determine whether we've got an issue in a particular environment that might actually affect another customer with the same sort of configuration. So we can really get ahead of the game there. In actual fact, over the last 6 or so months, our managed number of devices has grown to a record level, but our actual issues per devices has dropped to a record low. So there's been about a 30% drop in the number of issues per device, and primarily as a result of our activities in that problem and release space. I'll just move on to transparency around a single point of accountability. And the first point there is around flexible models of service management. So our service manager effectively manages all aspects of service delivery across the board. So whatever services are being provisioned or procured, consumed by the customer from Brennan IT, the service manager is that single person to go to, that single point of accountability. There's no finger pointing. There's a single point that remains accountable across all lines of business and all services for us. With our service management offerings, we've actually got three disparate levels of service management that we offer: Premier, Advanced, and Standard, all with varying degrees of deliverables. We appreciate the customers. Some customers might just require some periodic engagement, monthly, even quarterly, on a strategic or service improvement level, whereas others would be working much, much closer with on a day-to-day basis, intimately involved, often supporting or augmenting that internal IT function. So pretty flexible in that regard. Customer sat focus. So as you say there, customer satisfaction is at the absolute core of everything that we do. We track it by a number of surveys, both at a transactional ticket level and also at a relationship and decision maker level as well. And it's linked to KPIs from everyone from the CEO down to our most junior members of the organisation. So there's a remuneration link there. So it's absolutely core to everything that we do and each decision that we make. Real-time reporting, again, available at your fingertips through our online portal. It's not something you have to wait to discuss with your service delivery manager or that sort of self-service via our portal. The last one is next-gen personnel, making your life easier. So the first aspect there is our service desk. So in regards to customer service quality, reliability, 90% of our calls are answered in 60 seconds. That's our grade of service. It has been increasing and continues to increase month on month, at least for the last 12 months or so. We've invested pretty heavily into management tools for our service desk to make it really easy for our leaders and managers of our service desk to be able to determine how many calls we're getting in for any hour of the day, so they can easily schedule and resource accordingly. That's been one of the main factors of that around that increase. And we've got a transactional NPS currently of 83 on the service desk. If you look up that statistic anywhere across the industry, you'll see that that is exceptionally high. Resolution SLA in our service desk environment and within managed services across the board, actually, in this regard, is 96% of resolution SLA. So we've put a lot of work into hitting those industry leading levels. And the last point there is on on-site support. So we'll deploy an on-site support model to our managed end user customers. Why do we do that? We see a substantial increase in customer satisfaction when we do so. We see a substantial increase in staff satisfaction. Our staff are more productive, they get more intimate with our customers, they're more proactive, and our clients are happier as a result. So it's an absolute core part of our end user support offering. So in summary, I've covered off a couple of key points there, so I thought I might just circle back on some of the key ones there. So vulnerability assessments, standard as part of our security offering. Service desk, we discussed the industry leading NPS and resolution SLA levels just there a moment ago. Remote and on-site support, this is actually baked into our offering, that on-site support for end users. Centralized patch and SOE management was part of that security offering we discussed. Problem management we discussed as being one of the key factors for us, being able to reduce those ticket volumes and create stability in environments. And of course, that customer satisfaction focus, which is at the center of everything we do. So I'll talk just briefly about the team. So a couple of key members of each customer's team and the roles that they perform. So let me just touch on a couple of these real quickly. So the service delivery manager, trusted advisor, for yourself as a customer. They're responsible and accountable for the end-to-end delivery of all contracted services. They're the single point of accountability, that one throat to choke across all consumed services. You'll be meeting with them on a monthly basis, potentially on a weekly basis, depending on the service management package. Service desk agents, that first port of call, level 1, level 2, exist here locally, and their primary aspiration is that first call fix and maintaining that greater service. On-site resources, as just mentioned, where required, we will deploy those on-site resources on-site on an ad hoc basis as required, but also as part of our end-user support offering, especially when we get beyond certain thresholds of support, we'll just deploy them on-site as part of our standard offering for no additional cost. The client manager works pretty closely with the service manager. They work on all commercial aspects of the relationship. Fleet managers are primarily the role that perform all that problem management that I spoke to before. So they've got full visibility of all those 7,500 devices across the fleet. So they can very easily determine, well, a problem over here on this site might actually be a problem for another site as well. And managed services consultants. So these guys are the technical custodians, the primary technical owner of each of our customer environments. They're our system engineers, generally senior in nature, and they're the escalation point for any issues coming out of the service desk. So why choose Brennan IT? So we covered off a couple of points on the left-hand side earlier on in the session, and I just wanted to come back to relate this back to how we deliver. So managed services within Brennan IT has a 24/7, 365 support. We've got a wide range of commercial models with capped and uncapped volumes of service. We're very granular with what we can bring under service, so we're pretty flexible in that regard. Access to wider and deeper skill sets, 170 skilled engineers with 1,297 certifications across 40 different technology vendors. We've actually got an incentive for our engineers to get certified. So every time they get a certification, they actually get a cash incentive. So it's a pretty good bonus to have that mutual benefit between an employee's development, but also bolstering our skill sets within the company too. Around reduction of tickets, so we talked about that 21% reduction when our customers have adopted our standard operating environment, and we've seen that across a good sample size of devices. Improvement of accuracy, so we talked about there the 100% accuracy that we will commit to on a number of really common IT requests and issues is what our customers expect of us and what we deliver. And allowing those end users to manage their own day-to-day issues. So 5 days to 5 minutes, and we're talking there about things like automated new user creation, going from creating that user to having that user being able to log in and send and receive email within 5 minutes without having to go through IT. So they're doing it at their own leisure. So industry leading SLA. So we talked briefly about the fact that we're now sitting at 96% resolution SLA, which is absolutely industry leading. And another aspect of that we've just launched is the 100% first time fix. And here what we're talking about is effectively, we want to raise the bar even higher. We've got the 96% resolution SLA. So this is an aspirational target where we will commit to fixing on first a number of simple phone-based requests. So we're talking about things like DL changes, account resets, unlocks, accounts move, adds and changes, permission changes on files, folders and calendars, that kind of thing. It's really what our users expect. They expect execution on these simple requests almost immediately, and it's really inspired us to set this aspirational target for ourselves. And finally, apart from setting high standards for ourselves internally that we aspire to, we've also been recognised by a number of industry bodies, the most compelling of which is probably attaining Australia's #1 MSP by Channel Future's MSP Mentor for the last 9 consecutive years, with last year being the 9th. And our ISO 27001 recertification that we achieved earlier this year, as well as is core to our offering in the security space. And lastly, there are a number of certifications and expertise across a wide range of technologies, as listed there, just a small number of those. So that brings to an end today's webinar on the IT team's changing role and how they can succeed by doing less. I hope you've all found the content of value. And what we might do now is open for questions. So I might just pause for a moment whilst we wait for those questions to come through, and I'll just answer each of them in turn. So the first question we've got is, how long does it take to transition over? So one of the great benefits of the way in which we manage our managed services is our onboarding process. In the short amount of time that I've had today, I haven't been able to cover that off in the amount of detail that we would love, but let me touch on it now. So we've got a dedicated team of transition management that onboard our customers from their incumbent service provider or internal IT team into Brennan IT. They've got a governance framework that has been developed over probably the last 7 or 8 years. That team's been dedicated, both in terms of its coordination and also in terms of its execution and delivery. And through what is usually a 6-week process, we put in links into customers' environments. We document their systems. We shadow their staff. We put in place our agents so we can monitor their systems. And once we get to the end of that process, we jointly agree between Brennan IT and the customer to start service. And the idea behind taking that sort of conservative approach is that when we start service at Brennan IT, we want to ensure we land that customer green, such that the first experience end users have of Brennan IT is a really, really positive one. So that's been really good in the past. We do offer a streamlined process as well, okay? Whereby if, for example, we've got a situation where the incumbent service provider has left with little or no notice, we absolutely step in and provide provisional support until our full transition takes place. And that can be as little as 7 days. 10 days for that to take place. The first question. I've got another question that's come through also. On-site support model. What's the criterion around when you would deploy the on-site support? So under two different methods. One is ad hoc. So as we have an issue that we attempt to resolve via the service desk, if we're unable to resolve it via the service desk, we'll deploy on-site support. If that's going to be a more effective and efficient way of troubleshooting and resolving that issue. That's one aspect. The other aspect is that if a customer is of sufficient size, we know that the best way of delivering service to that customer is via an on-site model. And that kicks in at about 50 users. So once you've got about 50 users or so, we know that it's probably better off having someone from Brennan IT on site. And that might be 1 day a week, it might be 2 days a week, and it might be full-time for customers of a sufficient size. If we're talking about 100 customers and over, it's usually part-time, so 2.5 days a week. If it's 150 to 200 customers, we're talking about a full-time resource there. Last question so far, and keep those questions coming in if you have them. How did Brennan IT achieve a 96% resolution SLA? So there was a myriad of different methods by which we achieved this. One was our diligence on problem management that I spoke to before, so ensuring that any recurring issues that we see across our entire environment are mitigated before they actually occur, which is incredibly important. And the second part of it is around instilling some additional focus and discipline into ticket management practices, such that at a organization level, at a department level, at a team level, and then at an individual level, each person, each group, each department knew their targets for that particular resolution SLA. They knew what they needed to achieve in order to hit those targets over a period of time. We created individual dashboards, team dashboards, department dashboards, so that at every level of the organization, it was incredibly apparent how we were going. We then reviewed that information as a management team twice a week, and we're still doing that to this day. And that created what we call a cadence of accountability, whereby if you're meeting with your peers and your management twice a week on what we consider to be one of the most important aspects of service delivery, which is resolution of issues, it is invariably going to increase performance over a period of time. Excellent. Well, look, that looks like all the questions we have for today. I really hope today's material has been of value to you. Really appreciate your time this morning. And if you need any support from Brennan IT, please do reach out via the website. Thanks. Have a good day.